I spent 44 days in Vietnam, traveling from the south, Hoi An, all the way up north to the island of Cat Ba. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how much I spent, where I spent it, so you have a good idea of the cost of living, or more in this case, the cost of traveling in Vietnam. Alright, so I was in Vietnam for 44 days, and in those 44 days, I spent £1,746. However, £76 of that was on my flight out of Vietnam to Cambodia, and £31.49, a total. Oops, I haven't done that bit. A total of £107. I can do it. I can do it. I can do basic maths. Was spent on the next stage. So that means that I spent £1,639 during my 44 days traveling Vietnam. So it's very important to clarify. Obviously, there's a huge difference in cost and experience between traveling a country and living in a country. I am now moving much more towards living in places, i.e. renting somewhere for 3 months. That massively reduces costs. Staying in one place massively reduces petrol costs. And obviously you get to know the local shops and the restaurants and where to go and where you can buy things in bulk. So yeah, huge difference in costs between living as an expat and traveling. So this was 44 days of traveling. And that works out at £1,639 for the 44 days, which works out at £37.25 a day, roughly $50. So where did that 40 quid a day go? Well, I was a bit of a cheapskate when it came to rooms, I would say. So the cheapest room I got in the whole time, I think, was £8. Absolutely horrendous. Don't rent a room in Vietnam or anywhere in Southeast Asia for £8. It's going to be absolutely awful. The only way £8 rooms work is if you are hedonistic. If you are going to go to bed every night with the room fucking swirling around because you've drank whatever you've drank, or, you know, whatever it is you've done, then an £8 night room can work for you. Particularly, you know, when you first get to these countries in Southeast Asia and you see these huts next to rivers or next to beaches, and they look so idyllic, and you think, wow, I can live in a hut on a beach for £8 a night. They are hell. Unless you're out, like I say, partying to a point where you're going to be so comatose it won't matter. But obviously a hut, you know, they're not walls. If you're living in Southeast Asia and you don't have double glazing, you are absolutely foobarred. But of course, you can only get double glazing if you're willing to spend $20 a night if you're traveling, or like I am now, renting a flat for around £300, $350 a month. So the worst was £8, the best was £20. Hopefully I'm doing some proper editing and I'm showing it you right now, but I don't know how much effort is going to go into this video. We shall see. But I rented a really beautiful apartment in Doi Hong, I think it was called, here in Vietnam. Really nice little town. And yeah, I spent £20 on, I suppose you'd have to call it a house. It was just gorgeous. And it was the first time in my whole time in Vietnam that I went to bed knowing that I wasn't going to hear anything, and just knowing that I was going to have my own space. And yeah, it was so worth it. It was so worth it. Sadly, it was booked the next day, so I had to move out, and it was quite a contrast to where I moved to. So I've worked out my average spend on hotel rooms at about £12 a night. Unless, like I say, you're young and hedonistic, I wouldn't recommend it. I would say, you know, save up some more and get to a point where you're spending 20 bucks a night on your accommodation, because it's just huge, especially if you're doing a lot of traveling. It's exhausting, you know, if you don't even have a space to rest in and you're just getting disturbed all evening. Oh, yeah, it was obviously I love traveling. It's one of the few things that makes me feel alive, and life's almost worthwhile. But there's a fine line, there's a fine line between like, wow, and just overwhelm and exhaustion. Because it's super intense. And I think a really good way of getting through that is making sure you've got a nice place to stay in the evenings. So that was £12. I rented a scooter in which I was not supposed to leave the Hoi An area, but ended up driving all the way to Guatemala and did over 2,000 kilometers on it. Well, I only rented that that was £60 a month. So that works out at $2 a day. So £12 on a hotel room, £2 on bike, we're at 14 of that £40 a day. And then I put down, this was pre the 2030 agenda war, so pre-petrol prices rising, which, to be honest, I haven't really noticed. I'm back in Vietnam now, and it's gone from like £2 to fill up your tank to £3 to fill up your tank. Obviously, it's going to get way, way worse. We haven't got the fertilizer shortages yet. In fact, we haven't even got the petrol shortages yet because it's all been, on the sea. But that's finished now, and it's about to get a lot worse all around the world. I think we're moving into a time of serious famine, which is going to be really good fun for those that are living with these invaders. At the moment, we're in a place where we give them everything as handouts, literally everything: shelter, heating on all the time, PlayStations, driving lessons, food, very small sentences for your grapes. We give them absolutely everything, and they still hate us and shank us and grape us and do everything they can to destroy us and our society because, well, obviously jealous of. And also just, brainless. So imagine what it's going to be like when the famine hits. Ooh. When they're not getting all those things. I've said for ages they've been brought in as an army. I've realised that whilst they are going to replace Western armies with migrants, and that is actively happening, like, Ireland are recruiting in Asia for their army and police force. In India. Poogies! As police officers. So they are doing that, but I've realised that they don't need to do that. They just bring in loads of them and then stop giving them stuff. And then they'll just hoard, like they hoard, not hoard as in, like move around in hordes, pillaging and destroying. But anyway, that's a slightly different topic. I hope you're not a libtard, but if you are, you've gone now anyway, so fuck off. Right, and then I spent £10 a day on smoking. I smoke a lot of tobacco. I just chain smoke. It ends up costing £10 a day. So for most people, they drink alcohol. So probably going to be pretty similar. Maybe a bit cheaper unless you're getting shit-faced every night. But yeah, let's just call it relief from the sober reality of this tyrannical world. Cost me £10 a night. So we're now on £24. Oh, did we do petrol? I think I got halfway through discussing petrol and then moved on. So petrol I've put down at £3 a day. Now, bearing in mind I was travelling 200 kilometres a day or something like that. Maybe that's £4 a day, but it wasn't much. And maybe now, after first stages of Agenda 2030 war, that might be a £5 a day. I want to do a whole video around the Agenda 2030 war and how it's affecting things out here. But essentially, the answer is not much yet. In terms of, well, the only thing I've noticed is petrol. And the Vietnamese government, completely the opposite to all Western governments, because, they actually seem to care about their country, did what would be fucking obvious, what is obvious. They dropped all the tax on petrol down to zero, and they put in strict laws around price gouging. Whereas in Ireland, obviously in England, we don't even bother because, we're all just so fucking downtrodden. The Irish haven't been indoctrinated with this whole colonization thing, and your ancestors were bad, slavery, hate yourselves, hate the colour of your skin, be suicidally empathetic. They haven't been conditioned into all that. So they did manage to have a protest. So this is the difference. You know, in Vietnam, the government straight away, off their own back, to keep things going, to support the people in the country, dropped tax off petrol straight away down to 0%. In Ireland, the Irish citizens have literally shut down the country because, you know, we live in a democracy. So, I mean, really, in a democracy, you should just have a referendum for everything and whatever people say goes. But people seem to think that, you know, the clear tyrannical dictatorship we live in is a democracy. Even though it takes protesting on the streets and shutting down Ireland, and they still don't listen to the people. Oh, it's a democracy. Govern me harder, daddy. Fucking retards. And then I probably spent about a tenner a day on food. Now this, you know, in Vietnam, you could eat 3 meals a day for £6 if you wanted to. You could easily eat for £2 every single meal if you went to street food vendors. The street food vendors are great. You've got to get over, obviously, all your conditioning around germs and hygiene and, you know, all the fucking nonsense that we're conditioned to believe. But yeah, you could eat for £6 a day easily. I tend to mix it up. I tend to only eat twice a day, and for lunch I go to a street vendor, spend a couple of quid, and then in the evening I'll spend £6-7 on a meal in a restaurant. And then a couple of quid. At this time, obviously when you're travelling, I wasn't really making my own coffee, therefore I was buying 3 coffees a day. So yeah, it's probably more like £11 a day, actually. So basically, you can travel across Vietnam for about £40 a day, £40 a day, £50 a day. But I wasn't doing it in luxury. I would recommend maybe having a budget of £60 a day and it being more enjoyable. Is there anything else to say? I don't really think so. So for regular viewers, I basically just record what I do every day and share it. It's very much a life vlog. I think that works. It's easy for me. I am kind of contemplating doing more videos like this, more like generic videos aimed at people who are interested in Vietnam or wherever it is I am. But you know, to make them good, it requires a lot of editing, and I just don't know if I've got the energy for that. But your feedback on these sort of videos, even though I appreciate this is a really poor attempt at these sort of videos, and it could be way, 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 way better if I put some effort in. You know, already I'm thinking, you know, so yeah, I'd like to show you an example of a shit room that I had and that good room, but that's the difference between this taking 3 minutes to edit or like 40 minutes. And I just can't motivate myself to do that. I really wish I could. But I think as long as I'm earning enough money to survive, which my content does, it's like, do I put loads more effort in to earn more money? Because I'm certainly not interested in fame or people knowing who I am. In fact, that's the last thing I want. So it's like, you know what, for the first time in my life, I'm getting to a point where I'm just, you know, I've always been about accumulation. You know, more. And I'm just like, nah, this is enough. This is enough. Let me know, do you think it's enough? Should I do more? Should I be putting music in and clips in? Stuff to fucking engage with dopamine sensors? Or, you know, is this enough? No,